Okay, welcome to MrCScience.com. We're going to be talking about converting between units. Apologia has a special method they use to do this. When I first started teaching, I thought it was kind of silly, but the more I've taught, the more I've seen that it's actually a very intelligent and smart way to do it. Avoids a lot of errors and makes some more difficult problems seem actually relatively simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through a few different problems here. If you watch the video once or twice and still don't quite understand the method, you can always email me at mrc@mrcscience.com. Okay, so let's talk about this method. So let's start with something relatively simple. So say we want to know how many, or we want to convert 15, whoops, grab my right pen. Convert 15 kilometers to how many meters? Well, you might think to yourself, that's easy. There's 1,000 meters in a kilometer. Multiply by 1,000, you got 15,000. But let's show you the way they do this. So for this kind of thing, it might seem kind of easy, but sometimes writing it out anyway helps you avoid error. So start with what you know. So we're going to start with 15 kilometers. Put that over 1. Then we're going to multiply it by another fraction. What we're going to put on top of the fraction is what we want to get. We want to get meters. We're going to put on the bottom of the fraction what we want to get rid of, kilometers. So and we know 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. So what's going to happen here is kilometers are going to cancel out because it's on the top and the bottom. We're going to be left with meters. We're going to get 15,000 meters. Pretty simple, right? Okay, let's do it a little more difficult. Let's take 7 kilometers, and I want to know how many millimeters there are in 7 kilometers. So this gets a little more difficult. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to start with what we know. Put 7 kilometers over 1. We're going to multiply by another fraction. We want to get rid of kilometers, so we're going to put that on the bottom. But we can't jump right from kilometers to millimeters, otherwise we know the answer. So we're going to make it in gradual steps. So we're going to say, okay, so let's do it by meters. We know that 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. So that's going to give us 7,000, and kilometers is going to cancel out, and we're going to be left with meters. So now we know it's 7 kilometers equals 7,000 meters. Now we're going to take that 7,000 meters, put over 1, and we're going to multiply it by, again, we're going to put on the bottom what we want to get rid of. We want to get rid of the meters. On the top, we want to get millimeters. And now you know from the metric tables that 1 meter is 1,000 millimeters. So if we multiply that out, we get 7 million. Meters cancel out, and we get millimeters. Now this may seem kind of simple here, but we're going to try something to make it a little more difficult. And when you do the study guides on your book, you'll find more difficult ones as well. So let's move on and try a more difficult one. Okay, so let's jump between units here. So get a little weird. So let's go with our English units. So I'm going to say we got 1 mile. 1 mile. I want to know how many meters. Now you say, jumping between miles and meters is kind of difficult, but I'm going to give you a little extra information here. I'm going to say 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. Okay, so we can work from miles to inches to centimeters to meters, going that direction. So first we need to know how much 1 mile is in feet. Okay, so here's another thing we have. We know that 1 mile, oops, and if you don't know this, guess where you can get it? You guys have access to the book of all knowledge called Google. So 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. So let's go from miles to feet. So, well, we've already kind of did that. Here, let's make this a little harder. Let's make it 7 miles. There we go. So let's start with what we know. 7 miles over 1. We're going to multiply by a fraction, and we're going to put what we want to get rid of on the bottom, miles, and what we want to get on the top, feet. And we know that 1 mile is 5,280 feet. So if we multiply that out, we get 36,960 feet in 7 miles. Okay, now we want to get to inches so that we can make the crossover to the metric system. So we're going to put that over 1. We're going to multiply by a fraction. We're going to put what we want to get rid of on the bottom, which is feet. What we want to get on the top is centimeters. And now we're going to multiply. We know that, oh, I had to get inches first. Sorry. We got to go to inches first. So inches, we know that 1 foot equals 12 inches. Now last time I stopped the video, but in my science classes you can use a calculator so that you don't have to do this by hand, but if your parents want you to do it by hand, then you do it. So we got 36,960 times 12 equals 443,520. We're getting into some big numbers. 43,520. 520. And since feet canceled out, we're left with inches. Okay, so now here's where things get kind of interesting. Now we can make the leap to metric. So we're going to take our 443,520 inches, put that over 1. Now we're going to multiply. We're going to want to get rid of inches. We're going to put inches on the bottom. We want to get centimeters. And our 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So we'll turn on our calculator here again. Times 2.54 equals, we're getting big, 1,126,000, and I forgot the rest, 540.8. We'll talk about significant figures and things like that later. We're not going to bother about that right now. 540.8 centimeters. Okay, so now we've made the cross between the metric and the English. So we're going to take those centimeters, put over 1. We want to know how many meters. So we're going to put centimeters on the bottom. We're going to put meters on the top. We know that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So we're going to divide this by 100. I'm going to drop it down here. So basically when you divide by 100, just move your decimal place 2 places. So we got 5.408. Let's put our, so 11,265.408, and our centimeters canceled out, and we're left with meters. That makes sense, hopefully. It was kind of a, you won't do anything quite that long drawn out. You'll have some fun stuff though, you never know. So let's do something slightly different then. Since we're in converting, that's the Apologia method for conversion. Hopefully that'll help you. Watch the video again if you don't get it. Otherwise, email me at mrc@mrcscience.com. But while we're doing conversions, let's look at standard temperature conversions, because many sciences deal with temperatures. Okay, for temperature conversion, you need to remember a couple formulas. So, first formula, degrees Fahrenheit equals 9/5 times the degrees Celsius plus 32. And it works the other way too then. Degrees Celsius. Now if you know your algebra, you can just remember the one and then you can solve for the other. But if you don't know your algebra, then you need to remember Celsius equals 5/9 times Fahrenheit minus 32. Now you'll notice these parentheses here. Here you multiply your centigrade by 9/5 and then add 32. Here you subtract 32 first and then multiply by your 5/9. So that's pretty simple. So let's take a standard temperature. Say boiling point of water. Boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. What is its boiling point for Fahrenheit? Some of you may know already, but let's plug it in and see what we get. So Fahrenheit equals 9/5 times 100 degrees Celsius plus 32. Now whenever you do equations like this on your homework, it's always good to write out the equation with all the variables filled in first before you move forward, and then work on a few things. So you might be able to do this in your head. Let's see. You say, oh, I can't do that in my head. No, look at this. So 9 times 100. What's that? Easy. 900. Divided by 5. 5 is tricky, but if you take your 900 and you multiply this by 2, or halve it, I mean, you get 450. And I just got lost. I can't remember. Okay, well, let's divide by 5 while we're here. So 5, 1, 4, 8, 180. So equals 180 plus 32 equals 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Sorry for the little side trip there. So 100 degrees Celsius equals 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's a standard temperature and pressure. That's the boiling point of water. Let's go the other way. Let's take a cold day out. Let's say this is Minnesota. So let's say today it got down to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a pretty cold day. Not our coldest, but it gets down there. So all you people watching from Europe and things like that say, well, how cold is that? So let's find out. So let's start with our degrees Celsius equals 5/9 times our degrees Fahrenheit, negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 32. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. So minus 20 minus 32 is minus 52 times our 5/9. So let's use a calculator here. So like I said, you can use a calculator. Sometimes when you do simple math it's hard, so sometimes when you do it in your head it's hard. So let's take our 52 negative times 5 divided by 9 equals. That equals, oops, lost my calculator, negative 28.9, negative 28.9 degrees Celsius. So they're relatively similar. I believe the Fahrenheit and the Celsius scale meet at negative 40. Is where Fahrenheit and Celsius are the same degrees, negative 40. Otherwise, changes like freezing, 0 for Celsius, 32 for Fahrenheit, things like that. So yeah, if you have any issues with this, again, give me an email, Mr. C at mrcscience.com. Thanks.